All right. Good evening. I'm Nathan Sticks, Chair of the Community Activities Commission, calling to order the Newcastle Community Activities Commission meeting of October the 8th, 2025. The time is 6 p.m. This public meeting is being recorded, broadcast live, and may be viewed later on the city's YouTube channel. Would you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, Amy, would you please do the roll call?
Commissioner Forsberg. Here. Commissioner Van Atta.
Present.
Commissioner Lee. Here. Commissioner Gozarian. Here. Commissioner Kretzinger. Here. Vice Chair Flash.
I am here.
Chair Sticks.
I am present. Thank you. Agenda approval. Is there any objection to approval of tonight's agenda as presented? Seeing as there is no question, please show the final agenda approved as presented. Approval of the minutes. Is there any objection to approval of the September 10th minutes? Seeing how there is no comment, please show the minutes approved as presented. Public comment. Do we have anyone who would like to present any public comment?
Yes.
Gary Campen, Newcastle Trails. Welcome.
Because I don't think my presence here is really essential, but I'm doing my duty as chair of the Price Memorial Committee. So here I am. I'm here to support the application for the Jim Price Memorial to be located in Lake Bourne Park near the west entrance to the boardwalk. Jim was one of the founding members of the City of Newcastle, the Greater Newcastle Chamber of Commerce, the Newcastle Arts Council, and Newcastle Trails. He also served on the Parks Commission and made contributions to many other groups and causes. The Price family chose the approximate area of the site of the memorial before the boardwalk was constructed. It took longer than we expected. Construction is now finished. The Price Memorial Committee worked closely with Peggy to determine the exact site and choose a memorial stone and inscription. The inscription isn't finalized, but the stone has been ordered for delivery in November, and the site has been chosen, and we worked with Brendan on how it would be installed. So we asked the CAC to approve the site and the stone for installation in November. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Any other public comment, Amy? Okay. Commissioner comments and celebrations. Are there any comments and celebrations anyone would like to share?
I would just like to say, I wasn't here for town hall, but I appreciate, first of all, I appreciate it being held for those citizens that were interested. I hope that everyone that went had a good experience and that some good things came of it.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you. Let's get right into reports. Amy, events and recreation report.
I apologize that this isn't in the packet. I don't know if it was something I neglected to do or if it got lost in the cloud. I had to get the agenda in right after the town hall meeting, so could very well have been me. So I apologize for that, but here is the printed report, and I will go summarize it verbally for those folks watching online. This month, I'd like to highlight a few items under the events, recognize and appreciate Regency Newcastle, who hosted very generously our volunteer appreciation event on September 17th. Their staff were thoughtful, gracious, many little touches to make our volunteers feel welcome and appreciated. And we, the city, appreciate their partnership, not just, as the host of our volunteer event, but also as a summer sponsor. And it was just I really enjoyed having the opportunity to gather together with all the city and community volunteers who were able to be there and celebrate and appreciate them. If you haven't found out already, Pumpkins in the Parks launched in the newsletter on Friday, October 3rd, for the month of October. As you know, Pumpkins in the Park, folks are invited to grab a clue sheet, which you can download from our website, or pick up a physical one at City Hall and use the clues to get to 5 different parks and find up to 5, maybe 6 pumpkins in each park. Use the pumpkins to find or decode the special phrase, and you can bring it back in for a festive fall treat. And we've already had a number of folks complete the hunt and turn in for their fall festive treat. And you should know something that's very different this year is that I learned that crows like bright orange things in trees, and squirrels like to do all sorts of nonsense. And there's these mischievous characters who, for one reason or another, think that they might want to take the pumpkin home. So to mitigate that, this year we have duplicates. So there are about just under 30 pumpkins, but only 10 letters that you need to find. So if a pumpkin goes missing in one particular park, more likely than not, you're going to have 2 other places that you can find that particular letter and number to match it on the special phrase. So we'll see how that goes. We've had a lot of positive feedback. There's only 1 repeat park from last year. All 3 of the parks are brand new, and 1 of the parks, it's a different aspect of that park, and I'll leave it at that. Arbor Day is going to have a new look this year. Instead of a large volunteer planting event like we had last year at Glen Eagles Park, hint, hint, the city is hosting Trick or Treat at Donegal Park on Sunday, October 26th from 1 to 3 p.m. We'll have some seasonal activities. We'll have some treats. We are giving away native saplings to the first 30 families who attend. And we will do a ceremonial tree planting in honor of Arbor Day. Planner Hutchins, who's here with us tonight, he's also going to be on site because Donegal Park is the next park that we're looking at for refreshment and updating in the same way that we did with Glen Eagles Park. There was a lot of work that happened over the course of the year, and then we did that planting event at Glen Eagles Park. We're looking to do something similar at Donegal. And this is going to give city staff the opportunity to gather feedback from community members and neighbors as to what they would like to see happen in Donegal Park. And then finally, with events, I'm really, really excited about this partnership this year. We always partner with Coal Creek Family YMCA to support their Thanksgiving Meal Baskets program. We have, depending on the year, hosted a bin for the food drive collection here at City Hall. And if you came in through the front steps, you may have noticed that. I still have to get the large posters up above the bin. But we have also, the city has also reached out to select summer sponsors and partners from our Newcastle Days performers and businesses in the Coal Creek Family YMCA service area, which includes Newcastle, Renton Highlands, and South Bellevue. And we have 7 different locations that are going to be also hosting bins and getting out the information about this program to hopefully reach more families and individuals in need of a Thanksgiving meal basket, but also bring in some more donations to support Coal Creek Family YMCA. They are looking for volunteers to help. Their backpack program has resumed. So on Tuesdays, if you're available, about lunchtime, midday, you are welcome to come volunteer and pack backpacks, but they'll be looking for volunteers with this Thanksgiving Meal Baskets program in mid-November. So that'll be in our volunteer newsletter. But I'm super excited to be able to expand the reach and expand the awareness of this program this year. Under our recreational programs, the second of the three fall Skyhawk session is underway. Flag football is running for multiple ages through the end of October, and soccer returns in November. The flag football has been surprisingly really popular. So I'm excited to see that. We had a lot of interest during summer camp season for flag football, and it continues. If you have recommendations for programs for spring classes or summer camps, please, let me know. We're actually working on finalizing the spring schedule for Skyhawks. Like today, we were working on it. We'll do a similar thing where instead of running 2 6-week sessions, we're going to do 3 4-week sessions and try different sports, try different ages to see what really resonates with the community and make sure that we are giving people what they would like to have for recreational programming. And then finally, just a reminder, we do have the monthly volunteer newsletter. It goes out on Friday, October 24th. Send me anything from your community partners by the end of the day Thursday, and I will happily put that in there. If there is something time sensitive, like for instance, Boo Castle is coming up on the 25th, I can always do a social media post on behalf of the organization, letting volunteers know there's an opportunity. Any questions? Alrighty then, that was easy.
Thank you, Amy. Ed, what's going on with Arts Council?
Yeah, okay, as usual, we have a packed schedule. We had a couple events at the library during the month of September that were well attended and appreciated. A couple things coming up. We're doing also at the library in partnership with the Friends of the Newcastle Library, a Diwali Festival of Lights celebration on October 18th. And that'll be from 12 to 1:30. And then we're gearing up for our Songs of the Season annual concert with the local elementary schools and high schools and middle schools. That's going to be on December 6th. In years past, we've held it at the Commons. This year, we're planning that event at at Factoria Mall in order to bring it indoors and avoid any concerns we have about the weather. We're continuing with our film series. So once a month, we do a film showing at Aegis Gardens, so thank you for their partnership with that, and that will continue into 2026. And then we are working on our holiday market for this year. Some logistics still to be worked on, so I can't announce that date yet. And then we're also gearing up for Lunar New Year celebration in 2026. So that's what's happening with the Arts Council.
Thank you. We'll go right down the line. Connie, library and new Friends of the Library.
Yeah, last month I gave the update that on the same night as our CAC meeting, the Friends of the Newcastle Library had their annual meeting. So would like to say thank you to the outgoing board members, Carol Simpson and Son Buford, and congratulations to the new president and vice president, Beatrice Wallace and Diane Nakamichi. I know we'll talk about it later in the agenda, but for whoever ends up being the Friends of Newcastle Library liaison, one of those two people will likely be your POC to reach out to moving forward.
Thank you. Allison, any updates for Newcastle Trails?
Yeah, a couple of pieces of information for Trails. Trails is looking into, with staff, an opportunity for out-of-area volunteers for trail work. And they have presented to council regarding a grant opportunity for Trails that might be something very, very useful. And then, as Gary has shared, the Jim Price Memorial is taking shape. Location, the rock, the inscription have all been submitted for consideration. And I understand that this is all in cooperation with Newcastle Arts Council as well as others. And there's still work ongoing with trails on their brochure and how to identify trail use. And I think Gary mentioned to me that they were able to be present at Town Hall to provide information for folks looking for it.
Great, thank you. Christian, what's going on with Historical Society and the Chamber?
All kinds of things. The Chamber of Commerce has a ton of stuff going on. Next Wednesday, Regency is hosting a Yappy Hour, a pet-friendly happy hour from 2 to 3:30. Next Thursday is the quarterly Chamber Luncheon at Tapatio, and the featured speaker will be the City of Newcastle. In my opinion, the most important upcoming event is the City Council Candidate Forum, and that is Wednesday, October 22nd at Newcastle Elementary. Doors open at 6:15 p.m. Program runs from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And citizens can submit questions that will be considered to be asked of the candidates online on the Chamber's website. So people should do that. Then Boo Bash is at Regency Newcastle on Thursday, October 23rd from 4 to 6 p.m. There's treats, games, prizes, and a costume contest for all ages. And then Boo Castle is on Saturday, October 25th from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. at the Fruit and Produce Stand. And as most of you know, that's a fun event with treats and prizes and other and photo opportunities and more. And then the Historical Society is doing their monthly cleanup on the 25th from 10 to 2, and then they host an open house on Halloween. So.
Thank you. I'll do a quick update on the YMCA. So on Friday, October 17th, I'm actually meeting with the new branch executive, Nicole Lowe, at 10 a.m. If there's anyone that would like to join me with that meeting, let me know if you are available. The Y is having their fall festival on October 18th from 5:30 to 7:30. It is free to the community, and they will have fun activities, trunk or treating, and other surprises for the whole family. So those are our local organization events. Just a reminder, commissioners, please email me your notes so I can get them into the packet for council before tomorrow morning. And with that, we'll start with our general business presentation from Brendan Hutchins. Brendan, take it away.
All right, thank you. Good evening, commissioners. I'm having some little technical issues, so I'm hopeful that everything that you're seeing is okay. I'm just not able to get into presentation view right now. But are you guys seeing that okay on your screen right now? Okay, great. So yeah, just glad to be back. Sorry, I've spent a few meetings here. I was out on paternity leave for a month there, and then just kind of getting back in the swing of things here. So, but lots to update you guys on what happened in Q3, and then kind of what the plans are upcoming here in Q4. So as I'm going through, feel free to jump in and we can discuss things as I'm going. I'm happy to do that, or at the tail end of the presentation as well. All right, so jumping right into Q3, like I said, a lot of really good progress over the summer months. You know, we can get a lot done with it being dry and whatnot. One notable one that you may have already seen if you're out at Newcastle Days or just in Lake Bourne is the tennis court resurfacing and striping. So, you know, we got a nice brand new green on green coat in there with the yellow pickleball lines. Previously we had the taped pickleball lines, so this is an improvement so we're not having to replace those pickleball lines, and covered up those cracks, and so we got a nice new court there. The Terrace Trail, a couple of years ago, there was a boulder that fell down at the Terrace Trail trailhead entrance there, and we needed to find a new spot for it, so we had some geoengineers take a look at it, and they told us that, hey, instead of, you know, all these kind of complicated measures to hold a boulder and keep the hillside up, why don't you just move the trailhead? And so we went ahead and did that, and we moved the trailhead a couple dozen of feet south from where it previously stood, and so you can see that in the lower photo here, a new handrail. We had a great contractor out there just knock that out over the summer, so great new steps. It looks really nice out there. The cemetery fence is coming to completion here. We're at about 90% completion. The remaining panels, there's a few, I think about 5 missing panels right now that were damaged in shipping. So those panels are, I was told, arriving this week. They should be here tomorrow. The contractor is expected to be completing those in the coming weeks, and any of the punch list items that we have for them on that. And then lastly, the Hazelwood Boardwalk. So we did wrap up design on the Hazelwood Boardwalk, and the project is preparing for bid now. Construction is scheduled now for 2026 dry season. So you might notice that the board out there and what we originally planned was to do the construction over this summer. However, that had to be pushed as we were getting a little bit too close into the wet season. Obviously, we don't want to be doing construction in the wet season, so safety reasons, financial reasons, and a whole lot of other reasons, we decided to shift the project into summer 2026, but that will give us, a little bit more lead time on getting a good contractor, making sure we have everything squared away for that project. In the meantime, over the winter, we have put in some bracing and stabilized the boardwalk to bridge the gap while we get to that new replacement next summer. All right, and then Q4, the planned work that we got, as Amy was mentioning, the Donegal enhancements. So we have the community outreach trick or treat Arbor Day event planned for later this month. Amy did a really great job of kind of giving the whole spiel on that. But yeah, bottom line, we're having people come out. We're going to plant a tree, looking to get some feedback, hopefully, on what people might want to see in Donegal for the new enhancements. Typically, what we're doing for these enhancements in-house is we reach out to a landscape architect who, we give them, we kind of just want to enhance the landscaping in the area. Can you give us some native plants that we could plant in certain areas and maybe upgrade some of the irrigation and whatnot? So we work with a landscape architect to get all of those drawings completed and then try and do all of the work in-house, replanting, ordering the plants and whatnot. So that's typically what we do, but we want to try and add a couple enhancements where we can, or refreshments. So we want to pull the neighborhood and see what feedback they might have for some enhancements in Donegal Park. Next on the list, a really big one, really exciting opportunity. I'm sure some of you are aware of the park at 95th. So some backstory on the park on 95th. It's at the very southeast part of town, right on the border with Renton and some, I think, unincorporated King County. Is a large parcel of property. In 2009, we had a master plan put together, really comprehensive plan. From what I've gathered, a handful of reasons, it just never was able to launch, and the space has sat pretty undeveloped and unused for a while, outside of just utility use that we've had and renting it to contractors and whatnot. So we're revitalizing the plan, bringing it back to the forefront. I'm currently talking to King County, visiting sites that King County and other parks have as examples to try and get a good idea of what goes into these large projects and large parks. How are they maintained? What are some of the blind spots that we might have right now? In doing this process, I do plan on this fall and winter putting out a survey and trying to spark some interest again and collaboration with the community I think we have a really good base with the 2009 master plan that we already have, but we do want to try and get some feedback and kind of see where people are sitting, if this is still the direction that they want to go with a regional sports complex is what was originally designed out there. So bringing that back up to the forefront and hopefully getting some more design next year and hopefully construction and just getting that whole phasing and project going. P22 is the Lake Bourne plan implementation. So originally, we were planning on doing the dog park for design next year. Design this year and construction next year. However, we were able to procure more funding for the design for the construction of the 129th turnaround. So that's on the north end of Lake Bourne. Currently up at the north end, there's just kind of a dead end. There's the shop and then a dead end where people, if they end up driving down past the cemetery, are kind of having to do the back and forth and turn around. So no easy way to get turned around. So there's a previous design that we had for 30%, and we will be working with the designers now. We are working with the designers now on the final design for that 129th turnaround, planning on finishing that up by the end of the year.
Quick question on that.
Yep.
So is it literally just a turnaround? It's not actually a parking lot, correct?
So there will be, I think it's 6 more parking spaces. So a handful, more parking on the north end, a turnaround. There's going to have to be a wall, some improvements, but the major part is just having a larger turnaround back there and the parking spaces. And then next we have the walk shed map. So a little update on the walk shed map. We're actually working on it now, but we will be finalizing the data inputs and then refining the analysis. We're working with a consultant now on updating the model for Q4 to help guide what we discussed previously in the discussion about Sylvan Park and trying to really have data-driven insights, kind of flashy words, but data-driven insights into where we want to try and put parks and trails in the future. So utilizing this walkshed map to better represent parts of the community that are currently underrepresented in those respects. So hopefully we'll have that here in the next couple months. I saw a preliminary map which looked really exciting and gave us some good insight, but we'll see where it ultimately lands. And I'll share that with you guys. Newcastle Historical Park, ongoing planning with the Newcastle Historical Society. A big portion of that is coordination on the Bima House updates. So was out there, last week, I think, with the contractor, and we were walking the site. So just figuring out what the next steps are on that. We have a really nice historical park coming together out there, and we'll see some major parts of it wrapping up here as we wind down the construction season. So that's everything I have. Any questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Brendan. Next thing is the Jim Price Memorial. Brendan and Ed, take it away.
Yeah, so as Gary pointed out earlier, there's a lot of work that's been done on the Jim Price Memorial proposal. There's information in your packet on the location, a short description of Jim and the impact that he had on our community, a draft of the potential inscription that's going to be on the memorial. We went out to Falls City to a rock quarry and picked out a rock that I think is going to be an excellent addition to the park. It not only is going to be a showpiece, so to speak, because it's definitely large and will have a presence, but it also has a lot of character to it. And I think that's indicative of Jim and the person he was, and how outgoing he was, and how he brought the community together. So I'm super excited about the choice of the rock that we picked for the memorial. What is planned is for the work to be done this month and into November, and then plan for an installation in the month of November. And Brendan, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that.
Not too much, other than I've been included in the discussions. I've been out to the site. I got Connor, our maintenance infrastructure team involved, and we walked it and thought the site looked great. You know, there's a handful of things that the crews will have to do, but nothing too major. And I've had some really great conversations in my meetings the past couple of months with Newcastle Trails, and pretty excited about getting the ball rolling.
Any questions?
Is there any takeaway that you need the commission to do as far as saying anything to council, or is it pretty much just a done deal?
So Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the next steps are, if there's no objections here to our plan proposal, that then it goes to council for final approval of the proposal. And yeah, that would be it. So we can move forward with that.
Yeah. So you make the recommendation, the commission makes the recommendation, the council then considers it, and
Okay.
then ultimately is the go, no go.
Yeah, okay. And I do want to point out too that I know everybody's concerned about economics. So other than prepping the site, which is the city's going to do that for us, the actual memorial is being funded by donations that were acquired when Jim did pass away for this purpose, that are being held by Newcastle Trails. So it will be funded through those available funds. So any objections to the proposal as presented? Again, we may make some tweaks to the inscription that's going to go on there. But okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, next thing under general business is our community liaison assignments. And so, given that Connie is leaving us, sadly, we have an opportunity with Gabriella joining us, and we'll have a new commissioner joining us next month. We've got an opportunity to realign our liaison responsibilities. So there are 7 that I posted for you guys a couple days ago. We actually have an 8th, which Amy shared with me the other day. I thought that was a wonderful idea, is including the Scouts, see what their activities are every month. And then I also wanted to ask you, are there any organizations that we're not including right now that you think we might want to consider including?
I
Christian?
think we should consider including the PTAs, PTSAs of the local schools.
Okay.
How far of a reach do you want that to be? So is it just the 3 in Newcastle, or do you want to go to Hazen and Liberty and?
That's a good question, then we should discuss that, because I'm only involved at the elementary level right now, but I noticed that a lot of our events will overlap with city events, because those 2 entities just don't talk, and so nobody knows what's happening at the city and nobody knows what's happening at the PTSA, and we don't schedule around them. So then it ends up being a pick or choose situation, right? Like, the only reason we didn't have something on the night of town hall this year was because I'm on the PTSA for Hazelwood. And I was like, no, don't schedule anything for the 30th of September, because that's a town hall, and also all of you need to go. So this is the kind of stuff we run into. So, definitely the elementaries that are in Newcastle, I think. I also think those tend to have the most events that are like PTSA focused. But Amy can probably speak to the level of involvement of parents and such at a high school level. I know it kind of drops off at the middle school level in terms of involvement, but these parents are still out there trying to make the PTA happen at the middle school level. So
I'd say you're right in that the 2 elementary schools and elementary schools in general are hosting a lot more community school events for particularly the school population. Not all of them are open to the public and community at large. The middle school, depending on the PTS has some. Keep in mind, so Risden is Renton School District. We're also served by Issaquah School District and Cougar Mountain Cougar Mountain Middle, which is all the way over on the 900 in Issaquah, is the school, the feeder school for Liberty middle school students now. At the high school level, PTAs are combined with the booster clubs, and so they're primarily focused on fundraising to support different initiatives, so different programming, sports programming, arts, and other types of programming supporting families and students. Their events tend to be auctions, and any high school events primarily are geared towards the school community. Only occasionally, I know Hazen has a AAPI festival in the spring, and that is open to the community at large. So I'm happy to dive deeper if you want more info.
So yeah, that kind of brings me back, makes me think about what was the original intent. It's been a few years since we started doing this. So the original intent of having the community liaisons, and like one of the things I heard Christian elevate was like conflict, of dates, which it seems like more of a calendaring issue. But then if I remember the original intent, it was to keep the council abreast of what was happening within our community, of things that were open to the community.
Correct.
Just so that we don't, I'm just trying not to get scope creep, and also make sure we're not being, leaving anybody off the list.
I think that's a very good point, Kim, and I also think we could inevitably reach out to the schools and let them know if you've got things that are happening that you would like us to include, they can reach out to us directly versus us having to go out and reach out to them, just from a bandwidth standpoint. Because I think right now we're pretty much maxed out, I think, as far as the organizations that we are reaching out to.
Well, and I'm also just wondering, a lot of these groups, I'm already signed up on their listserv, so I'm wondering if we make the same ask of the organizations. They're already pushing the notifications, so, whether or not we are added to the list, or, just so it's not creating duplicative work even for the people in these organizations. They're like, we already have a Facebook group, we already have a newsletter, we already have, and I also need to communicate here at a time that's not, it's just another ask of people, and there's a lot of asks. Is there a way that we can help these organizations and ourselves in being more efficient in our communications? And just being real clear about why we're asking for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do we need? What's the purpose? And is that purpose not met in other ways?
And kind of like what's in it for them too. I think the same way they may not know what's going on with the city. I feel like I've heard even just from neighbors and such that you kind of have to opt in or know where to look. So it could be a good way to kind of tee up to what the partnership could bring to them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know that with some of these organizations, they have reoccurring meetings, and so where there's the possibility of our interacting with these organizations versus, we'll take schools for an example. They have stuff going on all the time, but are there activities going on that they would need our input from and allow us to then report back to a council and the community? So I think what we've been doing has been pretty successful. Maybe we're trying to take on a little too much with some of these, and they're not as necessary. I'll give you an example. So at one point, we were reaching out to Aegis on a regular basis and not getting a lot of information back in a timely manner to be able to report back what was going on in the community. A lot of the things were also overlapping with what like the Arts Council was doing, so we were able to actually get that information. So Basically, what I tried to do is just come up with a list of not only the organizations we are currently reaching out to, but maybe some of the ones we have not been thinking of, not to ask us to do a lot more. So, do you guys still feel that this is a worthy effort? And if so, then which are the organizations that we want to continue to reach out to, and then talk about who would like to take on those responsibilities?
I don't see any harm in including the PTAs or PTSAs as long as there's valuable information to pass along or share. I follow Hazelwood PTSA. I don't know why, but I do. But I don't. Honestly, maybe I don't see enough frequently, but I don't see a lot of information there, which doesn't mean that they don't have a lot of that going on. But I wonder if some of the information that we could be sharing is being provided on their social media platforms.
Yeah, just sometimes it feels a little listy here. You know, when we go down our reports, it's not like you described a more dynamic interaction where it's like, oh, maybe there's something we could provide for these organizations, but it really ends up kind of being like a report that comes off of a newsletter. And I just, like I said, I don't want to duplicate work that's already happening, or I don't want to make it be extra work. Like, how can we make this efficient for all the parties involved and make sure that everybody's getting what they need from the process? Like, do we have feedback from the council that they really value this list that we're giving them in their packet once a month? Have we heard any feedback? So I guess I have questions of like, maybe we could even wait another month to decide. We'll have our new commissioner, and then we could do a little bit of fact finding to find out, is anybody really reading that? Or are we just making work?
I love the idea of all this information going to council and council saying, this is great information for us to know about the rest of the community, especially those council members, or even people here, council members that aren't involved, or I'll say aren't involved in PTSAs or schools at all, or the Y, or any of these things that we're sharing info on. I love the idea that they receive information and that they find it valuable.
And we can ask them, that's a very good idea. We can ask council if they find this information valuable. One thing, when I first joined the commission, I remember it was a very small list. It was really the other volunteer organizations within the city that we were reaching out to, which would be the Arts Council, Trails, and the Chamber. Beyond that, really, it was more, if those organizations, I think, are having events that are open to the public and they would like us to share that information in our packets to council and to the public at our meetings, then maybe they reach out to us. But I think as from an organization standpoint, I think it's valuable, especially since Gary's sitting right here, to have a representative with Newcastle Trails to be able to bring back, because they have reoccurring meetings, and it is a volunteer organization within our city. I think that does bring a lot of value to us. And I know there's also been, Allison has been the liaison, there's been interactions of where the Trails needs our assistance in some of the projects that they're working on. So it's been a good back and forth.
Yeah, that is described, I agree, is very valuable. Yeah.
So maybe we go back to that. So something to consider. I like Kim's idea. Let's sleep on this before we get our new commissioner on board next month. And let's also, I would be happy to reach out to council and ask them if they're finding that information valuable.
And maybe not if you find it, like maybe not a yes, no binary, but like, what about the information do you find
Okay, that's good.
valuable?
Chair Sticks, if I could interject for a moment. the school's suggestion, I think it'd be useful for Commissioner Kritzinger if you want to take the lead in asking Hazelwood PTSA. I, as the city, am reluctant to publish a lot of school-based events. 2 reasons. One is because they are not open to the community, and I don't want to give the impression that they are, because particularly at the elementary schools, they are designed for their families and the school community, and so we would have to make sure that we're being very clear that whatever we put out is open to the community, so to gauge what they think about the idea. And also the commissioners are welcome to report on what they report on. The city communication channels will not publish fundraisers, like we won't promote fundraisers for other organizations.
Any other thoughts? So if we were to go back to the time when we were just reaching out to specifically the volunteer organizations within the city of Newcastle, that would be Trails, the Chamber, Historical Society, and Arts Council. And maybe we get back to that. I still think we can reach out to the other organizations that we have been reaching out to and let them know we might be changing our course once we make that decision next month, and that they can certainly reach out to us, and we would be happy to share that information at our monthly meetings. Does that sound like a good idea?
I would throw the Friends of the Newcastle Library on that list, too.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you for that. Amy, special events.
You can take a couple minute break amongst yourselves while I get the slideshow back up, and then run back here and project it on YouTube. I've discovered I can't be in 2 places at once. Yay for technology. Okay, so tonight I wanted to talk to the commission about what elements are involved in planning a special event here in our community. This actually came up earlier this year with City Council, as council had asked staff to explore the idea of doing a special events permit. Something that was in place in the city and then revoked. I don't know exactly what the proper term is, but that policy was rescinded. I believe it was 99. And so staff explored it, and then ultimately it was presented to council that there's really not the human and physical infrastructure available to support a special events permitting process. However, I continue to, and we as a commission continue to get ideas and requests from the community about special events. I'm also thinking about, moving ahead. You'll be working on your 2026 work plan. And I really want to help not just the CAC, but the community at large better understand the complexities of planning a special event, particularly where the entire community is invited to gather in Lake Bourne Park, which is where we stereotypically consider special events to happen. So I want to help the community better understand what goes into something like that, and also help the community understand why you have seen me as a staff member moving more towards what I call the low-hanging fruit events. So the events that aren't special events. So things like Pumpkins in the Park, things like our Arbor Day celebration, or Weed Warriors volunteer event. Why help the community understand why I move towards those and gravitate towards those as options and opportunities, and help the community at large understand why, rather than thinking about having these big, huge special events, how can we move towards these events that don't require us to gather all the time, everywhere at Lake Bourne Park. So just an overview of what is a special event. WCIA, which is our insurance authority, they have a definition of a special event, and that is the one that we use because we obviously want to be insured for our events. It's any event that is open invitation or more than 100 in attendance. And that's a guideline for us. We also deal with other jurisdictions, like Bellevue Fire Department, that has their own definition of a special event. So at times we, like for instance, Arbor Day is technically an open invitation event, but we know we're not going to get more than 100 people out there. So I know that it's technically not a special event. Bellevue Fire is not going to treat Arbor Day as a special event. And so we are comfortable moving forward with something like that. However, an Arbor Day festival at Lake Bourne Park, then we know we're having lots of vendors and things like that, that is something that is more of the special event type. So just as I explained, City of Newcastle does not offer a special event permit. As such, the city is the only one who is able to host special events on its property. And you already see this from me working behind the scenes. The more complex the event and or greater the expected the attendance, the more plans, permits, and licenses are required. So when we started looking at, staff started looking at what would be required, what are some of the things we do or other jurisdictions require when you do a special event? Oh, come on, we'll just click. There we go. So there are a variety of different kinds of plans required, and they detail out different aspects of a special event that ensure compliance with city, county regulations. And obviously they set up a special event for success. So all of the following on that bullet list are things that I definitely do for the fireworks and Newcastle Days. And I do the majority of this for our concerts. And I do some of this for the Lunar New Year. So some of the plans that may be required, an ADA compliance plan. What I mean by that is making sure that for our outdoor events at Lake Bourne Park, we have accessible bathrooms, we have accessible parking, and we have a plan for that. I need to prepare a crowd management plan, a garbage and sanitation plan, a neighborhood outreach plan. And in a sense, by communicating that the event is happening, that luckily takes care of the neighborhood outreach plan. However, if we were to do a special event permit and someone were to come in and plan, a special event at the park, Lake Bourne Park, that would be required of them. They would need to have a neighborhood outreach plan. How are you going to communicate to the neighbor and the greater community that you are holding a special event at Lake Bourne Park? I have to have a parking plan, portable toilets plan, security and traffic plan, venue layout map, and then Lake Bourne Park is unique in that it has a water feature. It has a big lake. And so we have to have a water safety plan. What are we going to do about that space? And make sure that everybody's safe. Questions about any of these? I'm happy to go into granular detail if you want to know what's involved. Like there's formulas for how many portable toilets you have to have for the expected attendance. There's all sorts of interesting details to those. Sure.
I have a question, Amy, and please forgive me if I'm going too off track here. With regard to the water safety plan, does our water feature, Lake Bourne Park, does that contribute to why we have a water certified or whatever police person? Or is that just a coincidence?
That may contribute to it. I actually rely on the fire department more for that.
Never mind.
But that may be, that may be an added bonus for why we do, just in general as a community, because we do have that lake feature there. I will say that very fortunately, the fireworks, because we have to have a fireworks safety barricade in place and we have to have crowd managers walking that actually is our water safety plan, because we have to block off access to the lake because of the fireworks. So that is pretty handy. But no, I actually don't know the answer to that. I can find out if you'd like.
Just curious. I'll find out a different way some other time, maybe.
And this is where it gets super fun. There are a ton of licenses and permits that you need to get to hold our special events. We don't need to require a business license. We can waive that. So none of our vendors are required to have a business license, but we because ultimately we waive that. But they are required to have, our food vendors are required to have certificates of insurance. All of our, like our inflatables, our pony rides, the chamber beer tent, certificate of inspection. The city of Newcastle might also require a building inspection. So the large beer tent that we used to have, we had to have a building inspection. Bellevue Fire is actually the largest presence or the largest partner I have to deal with all of our events. And kudos to the assistant fire marshal, who's been extremely helpful in guiding me towards how much of us do I need to do for each of our different events. We have to have an outdoor assembly permit, which includes some of the documentation plans that you saw on that earlier slide. They do a fire safety site plan review, so they review everything I submit even before they issue the permit, and then they also do an on-site fire and life safety inspection. And then there's some added, depending on the complexity of the event, there's actually some more on top of that as well. I also work with the Newcastle Police Department. They prepare an incident action plan. And although this is not through the Newcastle Police Department, I put this under public safety. I also work with the Washington State Fusion Center, and they prepare a threat assessment for us for our two largest events. And that's why it's in Itals, because they only prepare it for fireworks and for Newcastle Days. I also deal with Seattle Public Utilities. The Waterline Trail, where we have the overflow event parking, that is not city property. That is owned by Seattle Public Utilities. So I have to submit a permit to rent that space for the dates that we want it. And there's a certain timeline in which you have to do that for the summer. Questions about, those are the key ones. Then we have some added bonuses. So depending on the nature of a very large special event, Bellevue Fire Department has some additional inspections and requirements that they do. And some of this is borne by the actual people, businesses, but I have to communicate and make sure that these are in place. So food trucks and cooking tents have their own layers of fire inspection and fire permitting. And we cannot book, I do not book a vendor who does not have all of this up to date. If we have a tent that is larger than 400 square feet, the fire department requires their own inspection in addition to our City of Newcastle Building Department has their inspection. And anytime you have canopies that total more than 700 square feet, so 7 times those 10 by 10 up canopies, you have to have a separate fire inspection for that. The pyrotechnics and any open flame displays, that is a separate permitting process. Again, that is not something I do, our pyrotechnics company does, but I have to make sure that they do that and follow through and make sure they have that, otherwise we cannot hold our event. And then finally, this does not apply to us at our city events. If anyone were to install a temporary stage, there would be a temporary stage permit as well. I also deal with King County Health Department. So anytime we have food trucks on site or food tents on site, each of those entities have to get their own permitting, mobile food vendor permitting with the King County Health Department, who then expect me to fill out a big checklist of who's coming, and then they come and they inspect at all of our events. And then finally, depending on the nature of the event, I also have to get music and movie licensing. So we do an annual renewal of a music licensing company. At present, we don't do any movies, so we don't pay for an annual, but if we were to introduce movies, we would have to pay licensing fees to the movie. They have these industry groups, and you pay a licensing fee. So that is all of what's involved in a special event, and we're talking about what we do when we have a lot of people gathering at Lake Bourne Park, open invitation, all at once. The fireworks and Newcastle Days, super complex, everything on this list. Concerts, less so, not as much on that list. And so as we hear from the community, they want more community events. I would like for all of us to kind of keep in mind the difference between a special event that requires all of this and perhaps looking at just an event, a Pumpkins in the Park, an Arbor Day, something that doesn't involve all of these different layers, that doesn't involve pop-up tents and food trucks and all that stuff, to keep it simple. And that is a much easier ask. It's a much less expensive ask, and it's a much less strain on human resources, but also the physical resources. Lake Bourne Park was not designed as an event venue. We make it work for our 6 major events. And that's a lot over the course of an entire summer. That's basically, event every other week if you average it out. That is a lot of strain on one particular park. And it's also, when we have a special event, that means people are not using the amenities of the park as it is designed. Questions about all of what I've shared with you? It's a lot.
When people are signing up for the picnic shelters, is there a process they have to go through, especially if they're bringing grills, tents, their own tables and chairs? Do they have to go through any type of a permitting process?
No, because those are all not allowed. So there's a big list of things that they are not supposed to be doing and a big list of things they're supposed to be doing. And they're also maxed at 50 people per shelter.
Okay, so that brings up a new question for me. Then who is policing those events? Like, who's making sure that those things are not happening?
We do not have a staff member assigned to do that.
Okay, so they're not supposed to, but then there's no way to actually enforce it. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, we do
Okay.
not have the staff bandwidth to police those.
Okay.
we do have public works crews who come in and they prepare and then they change the trash. So they prepare the shelter and change the trash. And so there is some attention to that. But no, we don't have a facility staff that goes around and checks in.
Because there were many events this last summer where they brought in a lot of tents and grills and a lot of people. But just saying.
And that's not anything that would fall under my department. I don't even deal with the park rental rentals. That's through finance.
So when they are renting the shelter, they have guidelines that are provided to them, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
All right.
So let me make sure I understand. So this is definitely giving us, I think, a very broad picture of all the depth and breadth that it requires for special events. Is the question whether or not we should allow other organizations to apply, like, so that you could say, sure, go ahead. Here's the special events checklist. Go for it.
So had council moved ahead with a special event permit, that's exactly what would happen.
Okay.
I'm just sharing this with you, just to have this information. Because there's a lot of talk this fall about expanding and adding community events. And I want the commission to feel informed and empowered to be able to hear that information and understand what it means.
I have questions.
Sure.
So, for these things that you have to do for these larger events, to ensure that we can remain insured and that people stay safe. I mean, that's basically, you can put them under those two umbrellas.
And then have a good time. We want people
Right.
to enjoy themselves.
Yes. Well, you know, staying safe is usually part of having a good time. How much time would you say that takes you for each one of these events? Just ballpark? Because this sounds to me like a very time-consuming process. Am I?
It is, but it doesn't happen, it's not everywhere, everything all at once.
Right.
That is why I book all of the key vendors in Q1.
Right.
That is why I've tried to improve efficiencies by putting out a food vendor interest form. So I am not a food truck wrangler. People are coming to me and expressing their interest and choosing the events. And then I bring those recommended vendors to the commission. So it is a lot of time, but it is, I couldn't even begin to tell you hours.
Right.
But I do spread that out over the course of the year. So once January 1 hits and I know what the council has approved for budget, and I know what dates the city manager has agreed on or has recommended or approved, then I can hit the ground running on January 1. And yeah.
So where my mind goes from here is that if somebody were to propose and it were to pass that we were going to have a special events policy for outside organizations, then the human manpower that would be needed on city staff doesn't currently exist.
That's correct.
And we would need to hire probably at least a whole other human being just to keep track of all this and like do all of this alongside vendors. Because even if we ask people who apply that they do this checklist, somebody has to go through and make sure that they
Yes.
did it, or we can't remain insured, I would assume.
That's correct,
Probably
yes,
a fair
yes.
assumption.
And
Okay.
that is why staff recommended to council against a special event permit, is because we currently do not have the staffing to check to make sure all of these things are happening. And then subsequently, Lake Boring Park is our only big
Right. So
space.
we would need another human just to manage all this stuff. Then we would need to ask some human on the public works, in the public works department or something to go, and we would need to pay them more for more hours to wrangle these things, make sure everything is fine. And then thirdly, we would need to be spending additional money to maintain all of the locations where any special events are held because of wear and tear. Am I missing anything?
Nope,
from
you're
your
absolutely right. So
perspective?
there's administrative costs
Okay.
to special events permits.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are the day of costs, in which, at the very least, you would want to have an individual walk the park with the event coordinators and sign off that they are accepting the park in that condition, the very least. And then also there is the maintenance involved of the increased use.
Okay, so I understand why they didn't recommend it, right?
Yep.
With our budgetary situation, what it is, this sounds like a lot of cost,
Yes.
additional cost. So that tracks. Then my next question is, well, two questions. Does our insurance cost go up if we start allowing outside special events?
Oh, that's a very good question. I can ask.
I kind of have to imagine that it might. Maybe not significantly since we already do some special events, but if you're allowing people who are not familiar with the process to come in and do this, do we pay a little bit more in insurance just in case? And that leads me to the follow-on to that is, if special events are held in the city and they aren't properly permitted,
Mhm.
like has happened in the past by people who didn't necessarily know any better, does that put the city at liability?
Yes.
Okay, that is potentially very expensive.
Potentially.
Okay, I think that's all the questions I have off the top of my head.
Any other questions for Amy? Thank you, Amy. And discussion Lights of Newcastle.
That's me. So speaking about an event that is a DIY event, does not require all of these features and licenses and permits. We just want to gauge interest in offering again the holiday lights map for people who live and visit Newcastle. Is there interest? Oh, and Gabriella, let me fill you in case you're unfamiliar, because you're new. Hi. So in past years, we have had the opportunity for residents to enter their address, no names attached, just they name their display or design, and it is put onto a Google map that then is numbered, and there's lists that accompany it, but people can then just take that Google map and go do a self-guided tour of the houses that are lit up like a Christmas tree in Newcastle. So that's it. It's been pretty low entry. We've had some prizes. We last year, the first couple of years, we did it with our the commissioners or a group of them and a rubric and the mayor's choice. And wow, that was fun. It was also 2 nights typically of driving around looking at all the houses and using the rubric to judge and everything. It was a heavy lift. And so last year we did it as people's choice. So people had a form that they could fill out to vote for multiple categories, so that we had, it wasn't just the one that was the most Griswold looking. There were also other categories so different people could be appreciated for different types of displays. So the question is, are we interested in continuing with that this year?
I hope so.
So yeah, I think the challenge last year, one of the things we noticed was, the amount of homes that have entered have ebbed and flowed. And really last year, if you remember, there was a 5-day or longer power outage right at the holiday. And so that impact, it was around Thanksgiving time, if I remember traumatically enough. And so So, yeah, it was, I think people between cleaning up storm damage and just having other priorities, we didn't have as many entries, but we've had other years where we had so many entries. So I think if there are no objections, and comments, questions.
Well, I think we've
thoughts?
gotten actually really good feedback even last year due to the storm, but I think a lot of people still enjoyed participating in it. I think it was a good thing. Yeah.
I was just wondering what the pros and cons of having this event are, and are there prizes?
Amy, do you want to lean in?
There aren't a lot of cons. Fiscally, there's very little impact on the budget. It's mostly time and creative input from the commissioners, especially now that we reduce the need to do the rubric business. But we would want to, potentially, if a couple of you are interested in serving on a subcommittee to help narrow down what the awards are going to be this year, because we really don't want the same people winning. Like, we want to, have variety. So, for instance, I think last year we had the Griswold Award for the most lit up. We had all decked out for a condo deck display. So we do really try to reach and encourage all of our homes to participate. So, it's really time, I guess. So pros, it's really easy to execute. It's cost effective. People do really enjoy participating. I think there are opportunities for improvement. For instance, mixing up the award options that people vote on. Potentially doing a combination of maybe, having the outgoing police chief choose an award or the public works department choose an award. So we have a combination of chosen awards, or the Arts Council picks one, and then people's choice. Because some people there were 6 different categories, I think, and some people just voted for the same one for each, even though it didn't fit. So maybe half people's choice, half selected by some sort of an official or an organization. I also think it'd be really great if we could have some community prizes, so gift certificates, and I can't use budget for that, but we could certainly ask our businesses and organizations if they would want to donate something to, one, encourage participation. Maybe if everybody who registers gets put in a drawing, and just by registering you have a chance, and then so it's not just the winners who are winning, but really giving incentive. So I think those are the 2 areas for improvement.
And in years past, the award was the sign in the yard, right?
Yeah. And last year, because I got sick and ended in the hospital, those didn't get out. So I had them, but they didn't get out.
But we have them, like, we could reuse them.
We could reuse
right?
them,
Yeah.
and certainly we have budget to order more different. Yeah.
I seem to recall the first year we may have had some prizes.
Oh.
Hearing no objections. Yeah, does anybody want to make a formal motion that we continue forward? Or is that do we have?
I move that we continue with Lights of Newcastle for 2025.
All in favor?
Aye.
All
Wait.
opposed? Show it as unanimous.
Okay. Is there anybody who would like to, maybe just one meeting, I think is all that we're gonna need. So Kim, anybody else? Kim, Gabriella? We'll find and Allison. We'll get together and talk about what we want to do. And we'll do that pretty quickly because we launch in mid-November to give people enough time. And let's cross our fingers, no bomb cyclone. And then subsequently, after the bomb cyclone, there were a number of windstorms. And so particularly the people with inflatables were like telling me horror stories of having to duct tape their stuff together. I mean, the people who participated last year were real troopers. They really were.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Last thing on our agenda is Commissioner Appreciation. So Connie is officially having her last meeting tonight. And we just want to say thank you for your years of volunteering and your years of service. You have been a huge asset to the commission, to the city of Newcastle, and we've really appreciated your great input, your participation. And you want to come down here with me?
I get slimed or something.
This is to say thank you for everything and a little certificate of appreciation. Thank you. If everybody wants to come down, we'll take a picture with everybody. Thank you. Okay, Amy, do we have any additional public comment? Nobody online? All right. I think we talked about this, not the last meeting, but the meeting prior, that we do have a living, breathing planning calendar, which is on our SharePoint site. It has its own little folder, so if you ever have any ideas, you don't have to send them my way. You can just open up the planning calendar and under future topics, feel free to add those things in there. Amy, thank you for implementing that with us. It's a tremendous tool. Our next CAC meeting is November the 12th. And we will be welcoming a new commissioner at that meeting. And there's nothing in our work session today, so if there's nothing further, the time is 7:23 and our meeting is adjourned.